This podcast is produced by the Harwood Productions Podcast Network. To learn more about the network and to find more of our shows, visit us online at www.harwoodpodcast.com.
Hi, I'm Cindy Harris, and in this episode, I'm going to show you some great little chocolate souffles that you can make at home. One of the things I love about this recipe is that it's pretty easy to put together. You get to practice your folding, and you store these souffles in the freezer so you don't take them out until right before you're ready to bake them. And then we serve them with a great Grande Marnier sauce. Now first we have to get our ramekins ready for our souffle mixture. So I have 8 of these little ramekins here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to butter each of them with just a little bit of unsalted butter from the fridge. Now I only have 6 of these white porcelain ones, so I'm just going ahead and using 2 of my Pyrex ones. Now I've taken a little dish and put some sugar in it, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to then sugar coat the insides of these souffle dishes. So I'm going to take one of the ones that I've buttered, sprinkle a little sugar in it, and then I'm just going to kind of turn it around and around like this till the whole inside is covered with sugar. Then the sugar that's left over, I'm going to dump that into one of the other bowls. Now what this sugar does is it lets the souffle grab onto it and kind of creep up the sides of the ramekins while it's baking. So that's why it's important that we get these nicely sugared. Now in a small microwave-proof bowl, I'm going to put in 1.5 cups of bittersweet chocolate. This is about a 60% chocolate. Sometimes they come in bars, sometimes you can get them in chips. If you get them in a bar, you're going to want about 8 ounces. And then I'm going to put in 4 tablespoons of butter, and I've cut this up into 2 pieces. And I'm going to go ahead and microwave this in 30-second bursts until it's all melted. This has turned out really nice and melted. So I'm going to go ahead and add some flavorings to it. I'm going to add 1/8 teaspoon of salt. That really helps bring out that chocolate flavor. 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. And now 1 tablespoon of Grande Marnier. Grande Marnier is an orange liqueur. It goes great with this chocolate. And I'm going to go ahead and stir this all together. Now I'm going to set this chocolate aside to cool a little bit while I start dealing with my eggs. Now for this souffle, I'm going to need to separate out 6 yolks and 8 egg whites. So I'm going to go ahead and do it the way I normally do when I separate eggs. I separate the yolk from the white over a small bowl. I put the whites in this bowl, and I put the yolk in this bowl. So when all is said and done, I have 6 egg yolks and 8 egg whites. Now I need to make a simple syrup that I can mix in with my egg yolks. So in a small saucepan, I'm going to put in 1/3 cup of sugar and 2 tablespoons of water. Now I brought my saucepan over to the stove. I have it on a medium-high heat. And what I'm going to want to do is bring this mixture to a boil. And I want to make sure that all of that sugar has completely dissolved. And the way I know that is when I can totally see through it into the bottom of the pan. So this is perfect. Now with my mixer and my whisk attachment, I'm going to take my egg yolks, pop them in there, just turn this on for a second. Then I'm going to slowly add my simple syrup that I've just made in a real thin stream. Now I've put the speed up to medium-high speed, and I'm going to put the timer on for 3 minutes. Now I'm going to take my chocolate mixture and I'm going to fold that into my yolks. So when you do fold, what you want to do is take your spatula, run it along the bottom, and then come back to the center and let that chocolate mixture just sort of fall on top of the yolk mixture. And pretty soon it starts to come together really nicely. Now I'm going to go ahead and stop and get my egg whites ready. Now in a totally clean bowl and totally clean whisk, we're going to start getting our egg whites beaten up. So I've got my 8 egg whites. Now to help stabilize the egg whites, I'm going to use 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar. Now I've got my mixture on a medium-high speed, and I'm going to go ahead and whisk these for about 3 minutes until they come to a soft peak. Now this is a nice soft peak. See how the peak just sort of flops over on itself? That's perfect for soft peaks. Now what we're going to do at this point is I'm going to put the whisk back on. I'm going to put the beater on a slow speed, and I've got 2 tablespoons of powdered sugar that I'm going to start gradually adding to these egg whites. And then once the powdered sugar is in, I'm going to pop the speed up again to a medium-high, and now we need these to get to a stiff peak. Now this took just about another minute, and you can see how this peak stands totally straight up now. That's a stiff peak, and that's as far as we want to take these whites. Now we're going to fold our egg whites into our chocolate and yolk mixture. Now, because the egg whites are so light and fluffy, we're just going to start with kind of a big spoonful like this to start with. And we're going to put it in the chocolate, and I'm going to start folding that together. Now, the reason we lighten up the chocolate mixture is if I were to put all of the egg whites in at once, it would really take a long time to get them incorporated into the chocolate. And once I get most of that egg white in, then I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of the egg whites. And now we fold. That is looking really good. So let's go ahead and put this in our ramekins. Now I'm just going to carefully pour this souffle mixture into the ramekins. I'm going to fill them almost all the way to the top. Now you can see I've got some drips on some of these ramekins, and I don't want that. So what I have is just a damp paper towel, and I'm just going to wipe that drip up. Now these are done for right now. All I have to do is take a piece of plastic wrap and completely cover each of the ramekins. Then I'm going to take these and I'm going to put them in the freezer for 3 hours or more. In fact, you can leave these in the freezer for 2 days and then bake them off. Now I've taken our little souffles out of the freezer, and I'm going to go ahead and take the plastic wrap off. Now, the beauty of this recipe is you can cook as many of them as you need. So tonight I only need 3 of them. I'm going to leave the rest of them in the freezer. And it's really important that you preheat your oven to 400 degrees, because I'm going to take these and I'm going to pop them in for exactly 16 minutes. Now while the souffles are baking, I have this great Grande Marnier sauce that I like to make for these souffles. So let me show you how I put that together. In a small saucepan over medium heat, I'm going to put in 1/2 cup of butter and 1 cup of sugar. The butter and sugar are now starting to bubble, so I'm going to add 1/2 cup of heavy cream, teaspoon of Grande Marnier, and 1 teaspoon of orange zest. I'm going to stir this up real well, and then I'm going to let this cook for about 2 minutes, and the sauce is going to thicken up. So it's been 2 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and move this off the heat while the souffles continue to cook. And here are our beautiful little souffles. Now we're going to want to serve these right away. So let's put our souffles together. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take our sauce, our Grande Marnier sauce, I'm going to pour it into a small pitcher. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I want to get these souffles onto the plate that I'm going to serve it on. So what I use is just a small little plate, but I use a beverage napkin on top of it. That helps the ramekin not slide around while I'm serving it. Now to get the ramekins off the baking sheet, I use two things. I use some tongs with these little rubber tips and also a small spatula. And the reason I use both is it helps me guide it. So I slide the spatula under the ramekin and then kind of support it with the tongs. And I just slide it onto that napkin. Now to install the Grande Marnier sauce, you need to get a spoon and you just need to open up the center a little bit. So I'm going to take my spoon, just push it into the center. Now the center is going to be a little bit soft, which is okay. I make a little well and then I just pour some of that Grande Marnier sauce right in the center. Then for a finishing touch, I just like to sprinkle on just a little bit of powdered sugar. Now if you'd like to try these chocolate souffles at home, just go to our website, go to the Sweet World show notes, and I'll have the recipe there for you. And as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to send me an email. I'll see you next time.